Have you ever felt adrift? As if your life were just a series of random events, a storm of chaos where you're merely a rudderless boat? You struggle, you strive, and yet pain, frustration, and confusion always seem to find their way back. You look at the world and wonder, why? Why are things this way? Why is this happening to me? What if I told you that chaos doesn't exist? What if every event, every encounter, every challenge, and every joy weren't accidents, but pieces of a cosmic puzzle, perfectly arranged? Buddhist wisdom, refined over 2,500 years, offers us a map. Not a map based on dogma, but a map of the human mind and the universal laws that govern our existence. In this journey we begin today, we will unveil 10 profound Buddhist teachings that have the power to radically transform your perception of life, bringing you not just peace, but also a profound sense of purpose. Before we dive into the first key of this ancient wisdom, I ask you to join our community of seekers. Subscribe to the channel now and leave a like. This simple gesture is an act of generosity. It helps us spread this message of clarity to more people who may feel lost in chaos. Prepare yourself. Your journey toward a better life begins now. ## Chapter 1. Everything happens for a reason. The hidden meaning of life. When we hear the phrase, everything happens for a reason, we often interpret it with a resigned sigh, as if we were helpless pawns in a game of destiny. But in the context of Buddhism, this phrase doesn't speak of fatalism. It describes the most fundamental and powerful law of the universe, the law of cause and effect, known in Sanskrit as karma. Karma, in its essence, means action. It is neither divine punishment nor a reward from an external entity. It is simply the natural law whereby any action, whether it comes from the body, speech, or most importantly, the mind, is a seed. And any seed inevitably produces fruit. The hidden meaning of life we seek so desperately is this: we are the architects of our own reality. Life doesn't happen to you. Life responds to you. To understand this deeply, we must abandon the idea that karma is a simple, immediate justice system like, I did something good, I get something good tomorrow. Buddhism teaches us that karma is a complex process, like a vast garden. The seeds we plant, our intentions and actions, don't sprout immediately. Some need days, others months, and some, according to this tradition, may require entire lifetimes to find the right conditions to germinate. Here lies the hidden meaning of suffering. When something painful happens, a loss, an illness, a betrayal, our first reaction is to ask, why me? I don't deserve this. The karmic perspective invites us to change the question. Instead of seeing ourselves as victims of a random event, we begin to see ourselves as participants in a maturation process. The painful event, however difficult, may be the ripening of a seed planted long ago, in this life or in past existences. Let's not see it as punishment, but as purification. Pain is the moment when negative karma burns off, is exhausted. The reason it happens is that the debt is about to be paid, the lesson surfaces to be learned. This brings us to the central pillar of karma, intention, satana. In Buddhism, intention is everything. Two people can perform the same action. For example, giving money to someone. One may do it out of pure compassion, sincerely desiring the other's well-being. The other may do it out of vanity, to appear generous and gain social status. The external action is identical, but the karmic seeds planted are radically different. The first seed is of compassion and will generate future happiness. The second is of attachment and ego and will generate more attachment and the anxiety of needing validation. The hidden meaning is that the universe doesn't respond to what we do, but why we do it. That's why the practice of mindfulness is so crucial. We must become vigilant guardians of our own minds. Before speaking, ask, "What is my intention?" Before acting, ask, "Does this come from love or fear, from generosity or greed?" When we begin to live with this awareness, we cease to be victims of circumstances and become masters of our destiny. The reason things happen is no longer a frightening mystery. It's clear feedback. If you're surrounded by anger and conflict, Buddhism suggests looking inward. Where are you planting seeds of anger in your thoughts? Where are you nurturing resentments? The external world is merely a mirror of your inner garden. If the garden is full of weeds, it's useless to blame the sun or the rain. You must begin the work of pulling out the weeds, past negative actions, and planting new seeds, positive actions. This is liberation from karma. We're not trapped in it. Although we can't erase seeds already planted, we can control two things. Our reaction to the present asterisk when a bitter karmic fruit ripens, a bad event happens. We can react with anger, hatred, and victimization, thus planting more seeds of suffering. Or we can accept, learn the lesson with balance and self-compassion, and thus refuse to plant new negative seeds. Our actions in the present asterisk each moment is a new opportunity. The present is the only moment in which we can plant seeds for the future. The reason behind all things is not God's secret plan. The reason is your own mind. Life is an echo. If you shout anger, anger returns as an echo. If you whisper compassion, compassion returns. This leads us to an even deeper concept, interdependence, praditya samutpada. Nothing exists in isolation. You are not a separate entity struck by events. You are an intrinsic part of a vast network of causes and conditions. The person who hurts you is themselves acting under the influence of their own causes and conditions, their own karma. When we understand this, anger dissolves into compassion. The reason that person treated you badly is not because you're a bad person, but because they're suffering, trapped in their own karmic patterns. Therefore, the first Buddhist teaching for a better life is this: take 100% responsibility for your life. Not in a guilty way, but in a powerful way. Every second is a golden chance to plant a seed of kindness, patience, generosity, or wisdom. Life is not a lottery. It's a garden. The hidden meaning is that you have the power to decide what will bloom in it. The reason everything happens is that you are the gardener. Begin to care for your garden with mindful attention and compassion-filled intention, and what seemed like wild chaos will begin to transform, slowly and miraculously, into a place of beauty and peace. ## Chapter 2. The Dance of Change, Accepting Impermanence, Anicca. In the first chapter, we unveiled the powerful law of karma, understanding that we are the gardeners of our reality, planting seeds in every moment. Now we're ready to explore the soil in which these seeds grow. And this soil has a name: impermanence. In Pali, the language of the first Buddhist teachings, it's called Anicca. Of all the teachings, Anicca is perhaps the most obvious, and yet the one the human mind most deeply resists. Everything changes. Nothing lasts forever. Look around. The season changes. Cells in your body die and are born at this very moment. The sun rises and sets. The earth itself is in constant motion, yet we, human beings, live in an almost constant denial of this truth. We build our lives on the shifting sands of permanence, desperately trying to make good things last forever and make bad things disappear immediately. And here, Buddhism tells us, lies the root of almost all our suffering. We cling. We cling to youth and suffer when the mirror reveals wrinkles. We cling to a perfect relationship and suffer when it inevitably changes or ends. We cling to wealth, health, status, as if they were stone possessions, when in reality they're made of smoke. And, ironically, we even cling to our pain, defining ourselves by our past traumas, unable to let go. Buddhism doesn't ask you to love change. It doesn't ask you to celebrate loss. It asks for something much more radical, to stop fighting reality. It asks you to see change not as a defect in the system, but as the system itself. Anicca is not a pessimistic philosophy. On the contrary, it's the key to true freedom and joy. Think of the happiest moment in your life. Perhaps it was a moment of great success, or the laughter of a loved one. What made that moment so precious? Precisely the fact that it was fleeting. You knew at some level that it wouldn't last forever. If happiness were constant, 24 hours a day, it would cease to be happiness. It would become just background noise. The beauty of a sunset lies in its disappearance. The problem begins when we try to freeze that sunset. We try to capture it, possess it. The moment we do that, joy transforms into anxiety. Will tomorrow's sunset be as beautiful? What if it rains? To accept impermanence means to learn to dance with life's flow, instead of trying to build a dam against the river. When a moment of happiness appears, instead of clinging to it with fear, the Buddhist practitioner learns to live it fully. Savor it. Be 100% present in it. And when it begins to disappear, as all things do, let it go with gratitude instead of despair. You don't suffer because you never believed it would last forever. And what do we do with moments of pain? Here Anicca becomes our greatest ally, the greatest source of comfort. When you're in the midst of suffering, the pain of grief, the anxiety of a financial crisis, the agony of a broken heart, your mind tells you, this will last forever. I'll never get over this. This belief in the permanence of pain is what makes it unbearable. But Anicca whispers a profound truth to us. This too shall pass. No storm lasts forever. No winter fails to transform into spring. Your pain is not you. Your pain is a weather event in the vast landscape of your consciousness. It's a dark cloud passing across an infinite sky. The sky, your true nature, remains intact. When you truly internalize this, something magical happens. You stop fighting pain. You stop adding a second layer of suffering, the suffering of wanting the pain not to be there. You simply allow the pain to be present, observing it with gentle curiosity, knowing it's impermanent. And paradoxically, the moment you stop fighting it, it begins to lose its power over you. We're exploring deep territories of the human mind at this moment. We're undoing years of conditioning that told us to fear change. If what we're discussing resonates with you, if you feel the truth in these words, I ask you to pause for a second. Leave a like on this video. It's a small act that helps us enormously to build a community of people prepared to live with more wisdom and less fear. If you're new here, consider subscribing. We're together in this journey, and the teachings that follow can change your life. Let's continue. How do we practice Anicca in daily life? The central practice is, again, mindfulness. Meditation doesn't aim to stop thoughts. It aims to observe the impermanence of thoughts. Sit in silence for just 5 minutes and observe your mind. A thought about dinner appears, then one about work, then a memory from childhood, then an itch on your nose. It's a constant flow. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of this flow. This is anicca in action. Observe your emotions. You wake up feeling anxious. Instead of saying, I am anxious, say, I feel anxiety. See anxiety as a sensation in your body, a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach. Observe it. Don't judge it. Just observe. You'll discover it's not solid. It fluctuates, changes intensity, and eventually dissolves. This is liberation from suffering. Suffering, dukkha, is not caused by change. It's caused by resistance to change. Buddhism invites us to become like water. Water never resists. It flows around obstacles. It adapts to the shape of the glass. It can be gentle as a stream or powerful as an ocean, but it's always in flux, always in harmony with the reality of the present moment. When you accept impermanence, you stop trying to control what cannot be controlled. You stop wasting your precious life energy fighting against the river of life. Instead, you board the boat of consciousness and learn to navigate. You become flexible, resilient, open. The hidden meaning of life, which we explored in Chapter 1, Karma, is that we plant the seeds. The teaching of impermanence, anicca, is that we must accept the seasons. You can't force a seed to sprout in winter, nor prevent leaves from falling in autumn. Live your life fully, plant seeds of kindness and compassion, but relinquish neurotic attachment to outcomes. Love deeply, but love with the wisdom that everything is borrowed. Work hard, but know that success and failure are both passing imposters. Embrace the dance of change, for in this dance is ultimately found true peace, a peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Stop fearing the next wave, because you discover you're not the sandcastle. You are the ocean. ## Chapter 3. The honest diagnosis, the truth of suffering, dukkha. In previous chapters, we established two fundamental laws of the universe. The law of cause and effect, karma, which makes us architects of our lives, and the law of impermanence, anicca, which shows us that life's scenery is in constant change. Now, we arrive at the starting point of the entire Buddhist journey. It's the very reason Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, left his palace. It's the very first teaching he gave after his enlightenment. And it's, without doubt, the most misunderstood teaching of all. It's the first noble truth, the truth of suffering or dukkha. When people hear this, they often react with resistance. What? Life is suffering? What a pessimistic philosophy. It's depressing. They imagine Buddhism as a gray cloud, focused only on pain and denying life's joy. This couldn't be further from the truth. To say that life is dukkha is not a pessimistic statement. It's a precise and courageous medical diagnosis. Imagine you've been sick for years, with a constant malaise, but no doctor can discover what it is. Then, you finally find a great physician who, after examining you, says, I know exactly what you have. It's this. Would you feel despair? No, you'd feel immense relief, because for the first time the illness has been named. And if it can be named, it can be understood. And if it can be understood, it can be healed. Buddha is this great physician, and dukkha is his diagnosis for the human condition. The word dukkha is often translated as suffering, but its meaning is much deeper and more subtle. Suffering makes us think only of great tragedies: illness, death, loss, war. And yes, this is dukkha in its most obvious form. It's what scholars call dukkha dukkha, the pain of pain. But Buddha went further. He pointed to a second form of dukkha, viparinama dukkha, or the suffering of change. It's the pain we feel when good things end. It's the anxiety that arises even during a happy moment, the subtle fear that it will end. You're on a perfect vacation and, in the middle of it, you think, what a shame there are only 3 days left. This is viparinama dukkha. It's suffering that comes directly from our resistance to impermanence, anicca. But the deepest form, and the most important for our transformation, is the third, sankhara dukkha. It's existential dissatisfaction. It's the background hum of our lives. It's that feeling you have even when everything is going well. You have a good job, a family, health. There's no obvious tragedy. And yet you wake up in the morning with a feeling of emptiness, a restlessness, a sense that something is missing. You sit on the couch in the evening, after a day's work, changing channels, scrolling through your phone feed, searching for something, but you don't know what. This is sankhara dukkha. It's the inherent dissatisfaction of an untrained mind, which is always searching for the next thing, the next dopamine hit, the next fix, believing that permanent happiness is just around the corner, after the next achievement, the next acquisition, the next relationship. Buddha's diagnosis is this: we suffer because we are chronically dissatisfied, seeking permanent security and happiness in a world that is, by definition, impermanent and insecure. We're touching the nerve center of human experience. Recognizing this is not easy. It requires courage. And if you've made it this far in the video, you have that courage. If this diagnosis resonates with you, if you recognize this hum of dissatisfaction in your own life, know that you're not alone. This is the turning point. To show you're on this journey of self-discovery, I ask you to leave a like. And if you're not yet part of our community, subscribe to the channel. We're in this together, and the next step is the most important part. The cause of the illness. Why do we feel this dissatisfaction? Sankhara dukkha arises because we cling to a fundamental illusion. The illusion of a solid, permanent, and separate self. We spend our lives trying to polish and protect this self. The self wants things: money, status, love. The self has aversion to things: criticism, pain, illness. We revolve around this self, trying to force the impermanent universe to bend to its permanent desires. It's a battle lost from the start. It's like trying to build a stone house on the surface of a rough ocean. The untrained mind always does this. It clings to a thought and says, "This is me." It clings to an emotion and says, "I am angry," instead of, "I feel anger." It clings to an aging body and says, "This shouldn't happen to me." Dukkha is the friction between our desire for permanence and the reality of impermanence. Therefore, the first noble truth is not a commandment that you must suffer. It's an invitation to be radically honest. It's an invitation to stop running. To stop running into entertainment, into overwork, into food, into drugs, into whatever distraction we use to not feel that background hum. Buddhism invites us to do something revolutionary, to sit in silence and truly feel dukkha, to look at it, to investigate it, not with judgment, but with the curiosity of a scientist. What is this restlessness? Where do I feel it in my body? When does it appear? What triggers it? When you do this, you discover something miraculous. The moment you stop fighting dukkha, the moment you stop running from it and instead welcome it with compassionate awareness, it begins to lose its power. You stop feeding the monster. You stop adding a second arrow. The first arrow is life's inevitable pain, loss, illness. The second arrow is the one we shoot ourselves. I don't want this. Why me? It's unfair. This second arrow is what transforms pain into suffering. The first noble truth, the truth of suffering, is the gateway to liberation. It's not a prison sentence. It's the blueprint showing the way out. It's the most hopeful diagnosis in human history because it doesn't stop here. A diagnosis is only made when there's a treatment. We've made the diagnosis. We've seen the dissatisfaction that permeates our lives. But what is the exact cause of this illness? Why do we cling? What makes us continue running on this treadmill of dissatisfaction? Buddha didn't leave us with just the diagnosis. He gave us the second noble truth. Chapter 4. The source of agitation, the cause of suffering, tanha. In the last chapter, we made the courageous diagnosis Buddha offered us. We looked at the first noble truth and recognized the existence of dukkha, not just obvious pain, but that subtle dissatisfaction, that background hum that haunts us, the feeling that something is always missing, even when everything seems to be going well. Like a great physician, Buddha didn't stop at diagnosis. A diagnosis without a cause is useless. And so, he gave us the second noble truth, which identifies the origin of this existential fever. The cause of suffering, he says, is tanha. This Pali word is often translated as desire, but its meaning is much more specific and deeper. Tanha is not the simple desire to drink a glass of water when you're thirsty, or the desire for our children to be happy. It's not the healthy desire to create, to love, to seek truth. Tanha is neurotic thirst. It's burning desire. It's attachment. It's the feverish, automatic greed of the untrained mind. It's I need instead of I'd like. It's I can't live without instead of I appreciate this. It's the energy of grasping, clinging, trying to fix what is, by nature, fluid. Tanha is the source of our agitation, because it's what puts us in direct war with the reality of impermanence, anicca, we discussed in Chapter 2. Reality is impermanent. Tanha is the desire for permanence. Reality is fluid. Tanha is the attempt to build a dam. Inevitably, the dam breaks, and the name we give this rupture is suffering. Buddha identified three main types of this unquenchable thirst, three engines that propel the wheel of our dukkha. First, there is kamatanha, the burning desire for sense pleasures. It's the most obvious. It's the incessant search for the next dopamine hit. The next delicious meal, the next binge watch, the next online purchase, the next sexual experience, the next like on social media. There's nothing intrinsically bad about these things. The problem isn't pleasure. The problem is attachment to pleasure. When we eat a delicious meal, the wise practitioner savors it fully, aware that it's a passing experience. The mind with tanha, however, already suffers while eating because it knows the meal will end. And immediately when it ends, it's already anxious for the next one. It's never satisfied. It lives in a cycle of seeking and brief relief, followed by more seeking. It's a treadmill. The second type is bhavatanha, the burning desire to be, to exist. This is more subtle but immensely powerful. It's the burning desire of the self. It's the desire to be someone to be important, to be recognized, to be rich, to be famous, to be the good student at meditation, to be enlightened. It's the desire to solidify our identity, to prove we exist and matter. This bhavatanha is what makes us defend our opinions with fury, as if our lives depended on it. It's our fragile ego trying to build and defend itself in a world that, in reality, doesn't revolve around us. It's the source of envy, arrogance, and profound exhaustion, because maintaining this facade of a solid self is 24/7 work. And it's work doomed to failure because the self we're trying to build is, like everything else, impermanent. Finally, there's the third type, vibhavatanha, the burning desire not to be, for annihilation. This is the other side of the coin. When life becomes too painful and we don't get what kamatanha, desire for pleasure, or bhavatanha, desire to be wanted, we fall into the opposite, the desire for everything to stop, simply. This can manifest through depression, apathy, the desire to escape, or at the extreme, self-annihilation. It's I can't anymore. It's aversion. It's hatred. It's the desire to erase the experience, to escape pain. But, ironically, focusing on annihilating pain is just another form of tanha. It's a powerful attachment to non-being, which only binds us more tightly to the wheel of suffering. We're dissecting the very mechanism of our minds. We're putting in the light what makes us suffer. This is the real work of self-knowledge. If you find this map of the mind useful, if it helps you understand your own patterns, please leave a like. It's a sign for us that we're on the right path and helps YouTube show this video to other people who might also be caught in the cycle of tanha. And if you're not yet subscribed, join our community. What follows is the solution. So tanha is the cause. It's this unquenchable thirst, this grasping energy that makes us run. But how does it work in practice? Tanha operates through a process called Vedana, or feeling tone. It's what happens in the millisecond before you have a conscious thought. Something happens, you see a piece of cake. Immediately, your mind labels it as pleasant, positive Vedana. This pleasant label instantly triggers tanha, burning desire, craving to eat, and then you act. You eat the cake. Or someone criticizes you at work. Immediately, your mind labels it as unpleasant, negative Vedana. This unpleasant label instantly triggers tanha in the form of aversion, vibhavatanha, and then you act. You get angry, defend yourself, ruminate about it all day. And there are neutral sensations most of our lives. Sitting in a chair, the sound of air conditioning. We label as neutral. And what does tanha do with neutral? It gets bored. And then it starts searching for something pleasant or worrying about something unpleasant. The untrained mind is completely enslaved to this process. It's a rudderless boat, carried by the waves of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. That's why we feel so exhausted, so out of control. We're not in charge. Our patterns of attachment and aversion are. Buddhism tells us that liberation doesn't consist of satisfying all our desires. It's impossible. It's like trying to extinguish a fire by throwing gasoline on it. The more you feed tanha, the bigger and hungrier it becomes. The person who wins 1,000,000 immediately starts wanting to. Liberation doesn't consist of denying all desires, becoming a lifeless ascetic. This is just vibhavatanha, aversion either. Liberation consists of seeing tanha for what it is, an automatic, impersonal reaction that arises and passes. It's developing the wisdom to stop being slaves to this impulse. The second noble truth is profoundly optimistic. Why? Because if the cause of suffering were external, if it were the world, others, the government, the climate, we'd be lost because we can't control these things. But if the cause is internal, if it's tanha, a reactive mental pattern, then the solution is also internal. This means liberation is, and always has been, within our reach. The diagnosis has been made. The cause has been identified. The prognosis is good. Now we need the cure. We've understood that dukkha, suffering, exists. And now we understand it's caused by tanha, attachment and aversion. This brings us to the most important question of all. Is it possible to stop this thirst? Is it possible to extinguish this fire? Buddha answered with a resounding yes. And this answer is the third noble truth, the glimpse of freedom. ## Chapter 5. The end of thirst, the truth of cessation, Nirodha. So far, in our journey, we've acted as detectives of the human condition. With the courage of a scientist and the honesty of a researcher, we've looked reality in the face. In Chapter 3, we made the diagnosis. Life, as ordinarily lived, is permeated by fundamental dissatisfaction, a background hum called dukkha. In Chapter 4, we identified the cause. This dissatisfaction is not imposed on us by the external world, but arises from within, from our own mind. It comes from tanha, the unquenchable thirst, feverish attachment, reactive aversion, and the incessant search for something permanent in an impermanent world. If the Buddhist journey stopped here, it would indeed be a bleak philosophy. It would be the precise diagnosis of a terminal illness. But here is where the entire journey lights up. Here Buddha reveals himself not just as a diagnosing physician, but as one who holds the cure. He offers us the third noble truth, the truth of cessation known as Nirodha. The word Nirodha simply means cessation or extinguishing. It's the most radically optimistic statement in the spiritual history of humanity. It's the promise that suffering, dukkha, dissatisfaction, can come to an end. The fever can break. The thirst can be quenched. There is a way out. The name given to this cessation, the state that remains when tanha is extinguished, is perhaps the most famous and most poorly understood word in all of Buddhism, nirvana or nibbana in Pali. Let's stop for a moment and unpack the myths. What is nirvana? First, what it's not. It's not a heavenly paradise, a physical place with clouds and harps where you go after death. Buddhism doesn't deal with this type of speculation. The emphasis is entirely on human experience, here and now. It's not annihilation, an erasure of your personality, where you become an emotionless, lifeless zombie. On the contrary, it's said to be awakening to real life for the first time. The word nirvana literally means to blow out or extinguishing, as when you blow out a candle flame. The crucial question is, what exactly is extinguished? Buddha was explicit. What is extinguished are the three fires, or three poisons, that fuel all our suffering. The fire of greed, lobha, our attachment, our tanha. The fire of hatred, dosa, our aversion, our anger, our vibhavatanha. The fire of delusion, moha, our fundamental ignorance of the true nature of reality, ignorance of anicca, dukkha, and the nature of the self. Nirvana is not the extinguishing of life. It's the extinguishing of greed, hatred, and delusion. And what remains when these painful and exhausting fires are extinguished? What remains is your mind in its natural state. What remains is profound, unshakable peace. What remains is clarity, compassion, freedom. Nirvana is peace that doesn't depend on conditions. Think about this. The happiness we know is always conditioned. I'm happy because I got the job. I'm happy because this person loves me. I'm happy because I'm healthy. But, as we saw in Chapter 2, all these conditions are impermanent. The job can end, love can change, health can decline. And thus, our happiness is fragile, built on shifting sands. Nirvana is peace that exists despite conditions. It's the discovery of an inner refuge that life's waves cannot touch. It's the peace that surpasses all understanding. Precisely because it's not caused by anything. It's not a reaction. It's the fundamental state of being. This doesn't mean an enlightened person feels nothing. They feel perhaps more deeply than us. They feel the world's pain, but aren't crushed by it. They feel joy, but don't cling to it. The crucial difference is they're no longer reactive. This is the promise at the heart of Buddhist teachings. It's not a distant dream. It's a potential accessible to every human being. It's your birthright. If the mere idea that such peace is possible brings you a flicker of hope, if the possibility of extinguishing the fires of anxiety and anger resonates with you, please leave a like. It's more than a video. It's a map to freedom. And if you're determined to find this path, subscribe to the channel. Because the next question is the most practical of all. How do we do this? How is nirvana in daily life? It's not something you get. It's something you discover when you stop doing what obscures it. It's a process of letting go. Imagine you've spent your entire life holding a burning coal. This is tanha, believing it's a precious jewel. Your hand is burned. You're in agony. This is dukkha. You blame the coal, blame whoever gave it to you, blame the world for making coal so hot. Buddhism doesn't offer you a better glove. It simply says, look carefully. It's burning you. You can let it go. The moment you open your hand and release the coal, that relief, that liberation from burning, this is nirodha. It's a glimpse of nirvana. Therefore, nirvana doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing event, a spiritual big bang that happens in 30 years. Cessation can be experienced in micro-moments in your daily life. Every time you feel the automatic impulse of anger rising, that wave of heat in your chest when someone cuts you off, and you just observe it, breathe, and let it pass without exploding, in that moment you've experienced a micro-nirvana. You've extinguished the fire of aversion. Every time you feel the neurotic burning desire to grab your phone to scroll the feed, just to escape boredom, sankhara dukkha, and instead simply sit with the boredom, allowing it to be there, in that moment you've experienced nirodha. You've extinguished the fire of attachment. Every time you do something kind for someone without expecting absolutely anything in return, not even a thank you, in that moment, you've experienced freedom from the self and the extinguishing of the fire of greed. The third noble truth is the good news. It's the declaration that healing is real. The illness of suffering is not chronic. It's acute and treatable. We're not condemned to live as slaves to our impulses, carried back and forth by the waves of desire and aversion. We're not condemned to live with that background hum of dissatisfaction forever. There is a state of clarity, peace, and profound freedom, and it's available to us. This brings us inevitably to the final and most practical question of all. Buddha diagnosed the illness, dukkha, identified the cause, tanha, and showed us that healing is possible, nirodha. Now, what is the cure? What is the prescription? The promise is made. Healing exists, but how exactly do we apply it? How do we step onto the path that leads us from thirst to cessation? Buddha dedicated most of his teachings to answering this question. The answer is the fourth noble truth. Chapter 6. The prescription for peace, the Noble Eightfold Path, Magga. In the last few chapters, we've completed the most important diagnosis of your life. We've seen that dissatisfaction, dukkha, is the illness, Chapter 3. We've identified the virus, attachment and aversion, tanha, Chapter 4. And crucially, we've received the good news, the prognosis. Healing exists, cessation is possible, nirodha is real, Chapter 5. Now we stand before the final and most practical question. What is the cure? What is the exact treatment? Buddha didn't leave us with just the promise of healing. He delivered the detailed prescription. It's the fourth noble truth, the culmination of all his teachings, the very path out of suffering. It's called Magga, the Noble Eightfold Path. This is not a series of 10 commandments, nor a list of rules to follow blindly. And most importantly, it's not a linear path where you complete step 1 and then move to step 2. Imagine it, rather, as the 8 spokes of a wheel. Each is essential and all move together, supporting each other so the wheel turns toward liberation. This path is a holistic guide to living. It encompasses everything: your mind, your words, your actions, and your life. It's traditionally divided into 3 great pillars, 3 training domains that, together, undo the patterns of tanha and reveal the peace of nirodha. The first pillar is prajna, or wisdom. This is our map. It's seeing. It's what gives us the correct direction. If you don't know where you're going, any road will do. Wisdom guarantees we're moving toward freedom, not toward more confusion. This pillar contains the first 2 spokes of the wheel. 1. Right view, samadhi. This is simply seeing reality as it is. And what does seeing reality as it is mean? It means understanding deeply everything we've discussed so far. It's intellectual understanding, which will then become lived understanding of the 4 noble truths. It's seeing that suffering exists, dukkha, that it's caused by attachment, tanha, that it can cease, nirodha, and that there's a path for this magga. It's also seeing impermanence, anicca, in all things and understanding the law of cause and effect, karma. Without right view, you're lost in the forest without a map. You confuse what is painful with what is pleasant and what is temporary with what is permanent. 2. Right intention, sammasakappa. If right view is the map, right intention is the compass. It's the why behind our actions. It's our motivational engine. Buddha said to cultivate 3 main intentions. The intention of renunciation, nekkhamma, not in the sense of running away from everything, but in the sense of letting go of attachment. It's the opposite of tanha. It's the intention not to cling, to let things flow. The intention of goodwill, avyapada, the opposite of aversion and hatred. It's the active desire for the happiness and well-being of all beings, including yourself. It's the practice of metta, or loving kindness. The intention of non-harm, avihis, also translated as compassion. It's the intention not to cause harm, not to be cruel, and to respond to suffering, ours and others, with an open and supportive heart. The second pillar is sila, or ethical conduct. This is acting. It's how we put our wisdom into practice in the world. You can't hope to find inner peace if your outer life is a chaos of damage and regrets. A guilty mind cannot meditate. Sila is the foundation we create so the mind can rest and deepen. This pillar contains 3 spokes. 3. Right speech, samavaka. Our words have immense karmic power. Right speech consists of abstaining from 4 things: lying, speaking only truth, divisive speech, words that turn one person against another. Gossip is the most common form. Harsh speech, insults, shouting, hate speech, words spoken in anger to hurt. Idle chatter, meaningless gossip, senseless talk that only agitates the mind and wastes time. Instead, right speech consists of using words to promote truth, harmony, kindness, and meaning. For right action, samakamanta. This refers to our physical actions. The heart of it is to abstain from 3 things: not killing, not taking the life of any sentient being, and, more deeply, cultivating compassion for all life. Not stealing, not taking what hasn't been freely given. This extends to exploitation, unfair business, and taking advantage of others. Not engaging in sexual misconduct. This means not causing harm through sexuality, such as adultery, exploitation, or any action that doesn't respect the dignity and consent of others. 5. Right livelihood, sama ajiva. This brings ethics into our work, into the 40 or more hours per week we spend earning our existence. Right livelihood is choosing a profession that doesn't cause harm to you or others. Buddha specifically enumerated trade in weapons, trade in living beings, slavery, factory farming, trade in poisons, and trade in intoxicants. In modern terms, it's asking ourselves, does my work contribute to well-being or suffering in the world? We've covered the first 2 pillars: wisdom, seeing rightly, and ethics, acting rightly. These 5 steps alone would create a revolution in your life and in the world. If this practical guide for an ethical and wise life makes sense to you, if you see how these steps can reduce the chaos in your life, please leave a like. It's the instruction manual. And if you're determined to learn how to train your mind, which is the final and most powerful pillar, subscribe to the channel. What follows is the gym of the mind. The 3rd and final pillar is samadhi, or mental training. This is the how. Here we build mental muscle. Wisdom and ethics are essential, but without mental training, we won't have the power to truly implement them when the storm of tanha, attachment, and aversion hits us. This pillar contains the final 3 spokes. 6. Right effort, samavayama. It's about energy and diligence. Peace is not passive. It requires active and gentle effort. Right effort is the work of a mental gardener. It has 4 tasks: to prevent negative and harmful thoughts, anger, greed, from arising. To abandon, if a negative thought has already arisen, to abandon it, let it go, not feed it. To cultivate, to actively bring about positive and beneficial thoughts, kindness, generosity. To maintain, if a positive thought has already arisen, to nourish it, maintain it, make it grow. 7. Right mindfulness, samasati. This is the heart of all meditative practice. It's mindfulness. It's the capacity to be present, here and now, with clear and non-judgmental awareness of what is happening. It's the practice of observing body sensations, feelings, Vedana, mental states, and thoughts themselves, without identifying with them. Here we break the chain of tanha. You feel anger rising, negative Vedana, but instead of reacting, tanha, you observe it, sati. You see desire arising and, instead of submitting to it, you observe it. Right mindfulness is the sentinel at the gate of your mind. Right concentration, samma samadhi, ***, when you apply right effort and right mindfulness, and your life is supported by ethics, sila, the mind naturally becomes calm, unified, and stable. This is right concentration. It's the practice of deep meditation, jhana, where the mind becomes so focused and quiet it can see reality with laser clarity. In this profound stillness, right view ceases to be a theory and becomes a direct, transformative experience. The illusion of the separate self dissolves, and the fire of tanha is extinguished. This is the path. Wisdom to see, ethics to act, and mental training to transform. This is the complete cure. We've received the prescription. The Noble Eightfold Path is the detailed map to exit suffering and enter peace. If this explanation of the path has inspired you to begin walking, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because in the next chapter we'll dive into the foundation of all of these, the practice that unites all 8 spokes. Mindfulness. ## Chapter 7. The power of being present. The practice of mindfulness, sati. In the previous chapter, we unfolded the most precious map of the Buddhist journey, the Noble Eightfold Path. We saw how it divides into 3 training domains: wisdom, right view and right intention; ethical conduct, right speech, action, and livelihood; and mental training, right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. This map is the prescription for peace. But a map in itself doesn't take you to the destination. You need a vehicle. You need the energy to take the first step. In this chapter, we'll focus on the 7th spoke of this path, which is, in reality, the heart that pumps blood to all the other 7. It's the fundamental ability that makes right view possible, that gives us the space to choose right speech, and that constitutes the essence of mental training. We're talking about sati, the Pali word for mindfulness. If there were a single ability you could cultivate to radically transform your life, reduce your anxiety, deepen your relationships, and free you from the tyranny of your own thoughts, this would be it. But what exactly is mindfulness? First, let's clarify what it's not. It's not about emptying your mind. Your mind is made to think, just as your heart is made to beat. The goal is not to stop thoughts. It's not necessarily about relaxing, although deep relaxation is often a side effect. It's not an esoteric or religious practice. It's secular mental training, an exercise for the brain. And, most importantly, it's not an attempt to escape life or dissociate from pain. On the contrary, it's the radical practice of being totally present in your life, exactly as it is. Mindfulness is simple, non-judgmental awareness of what is happening, in the moment it's happening. It's the capacity to remember to return to the present. The word sati also carries the meaning of remembering. Remembering what? Remembering to be here. Remembering to observe instead of reacting. Most of us live on autopilot. Our bodies are in one place, driving, washing dishes, in a meeting, but our minds are elsewhere. We're lost in ruminations about the past. I shouldn't have said that. Or in anxieties about the future. What if this happens? The present, the only moment when life truly happens, escapes us. We don't live 10,000 days. We live the same day 10,000 times, caught in the same loops of reactive thoughts. Mindfulness is the circuit breaker. It's the act of waking up from this trance. In Chapter 4, we talked about the chain that leads us to suffering. A stimulus, someone criticizes us, leads to an unpleasant sensation, Vedana, which instantly triggers attachment or aversion, Tanha, which causes us to react, yell, defend ourselves, hold a grudge. All this happens in a millisecond. It's an automatic reflex. Mindfulness is what allows us to create a space between stimulus and reaction. With the practice of sati, the process transforms. The stimulus occurs, the criticism. The unpleasant sensation arises, Vedana. And then sati intervenes. Mindfulness illuminates the sensation. It says, interesting. I feel a tightness in my chest. I feel heat rising up my neck. This is the sensation of anger arising. You're no longer the anger. You're the observer of the anger. And in that space, in that moment of clear observation, something miraculous happens. You have a choice. You're no longer a slave to your reaction. You can choose to breathe. You can choose to remain silent. You can choose to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with venom. This is the mechanism of liberation. It's not magic. It's training. We're talking about the number one ability for mental health and inner peace. We're talking about how to take control of your own mind. If the idea of having this space of choice in your life seems liberating, if you're tired of being hostage to your own reactions, please leave a like. It's an acknowledgement that you're ready to wake up. And if you want to learn how to build this space, subscribe to the channel. How do we cultivate sati? In two ways, formal and informal. Formal practice is what we call meditation. It's the gym. This is where you sit for 5, 10, or 20 minutes a day to build the muscle of attention. It's simple, but it's not easy. You sit in a comfortable position, close your eyes, and choose an anchor for your attention, something happening right now. The most common anchor is the breath. Simply feel the sensation of air entering and leaving your body. Inevitably, within a few seconds, your mind will wander. It will go to a to-do list, to a memory, to a sound from the street. This is not a sign of failure. This is the most important moment of the practice. The moment you realize your mind has wandered. That is mindfulness. And then gently, without judgment, you simply bring your attention back to the breath. Again and again and again. Each time you do this, you're literally rewiring your brain. You're strengthening the observer and weakening automatic reactivity. Informal practice is the ultimate goal. It's bringing this awareness into your daily life. It's the game for which you've trained at the gym. Practice mindfulness washing dishes. Instead of being lost in thoughts, truly feel the water temperature, the smell of soap, the contact of the sponge with the plate. You're totally there. And, amazingly, this boring task becomes a source of peace. Practice eating. Turn off the TV. Put your phone aside. Truly look at your food. Smell it. Chew slowly, savoring every taste. Practice listening. When someone talks to you, do you truly listen? Or are you just waiting for your turn to speak, formulating your response? Mindfulness in listening means offering the other person the rarest gift of all, your total presence. Being present is the greatest gift you can give yourself and the world. Mindfulness dissolves anxiety, which lives in the future, and regret, which lives in the past. It brings you home to the only place where life exists, the present. It's the tool we use to apply right effort. It's the microscope that allows us to see impermanence, anicca, in real time. It's the shield that protects us from being hurt by others' harsh speech and the guide that prevents us from using it. Sati is the universal key. It's awakening. We have the path. And now we have the central tool to walk it, mindfulness. But this tool, this mental clarity, reveals not only our own patterns, but also the suffering of the world around us. If this chapter on mindfulness has helped you understand the power of the present, leave a like and subscribe, because in the next chapter, we'll cultivate the emotions that naturally flourish when the mind is clear. Compassion and loving kindness. Hashtag Chapter 8. The awakened heart. Cultivating loving kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna. In the previous chapter, we explored the fundamental tool of mindfulness, sati. We learned to create a space between stimulus and reaction, to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming their slaves. Mindfulness is the clarity aspect of the path. It's the mind that sees. But Buddhism is not a cold or purely intellectual practice. It's a path of the heart-mind. The clarity of mindfulness, when practiced correctly, doesn't lead to indifferent detachment. On the contrary, when you truly see your own pain without judgment and when you clearly see the pain of others, a natural and beautiful response begins to flourish. This response is the awakened heart. In this chapter, we'll cultivate the two most precious jewels of this heart: metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion. If the Noble Eightfold Path is the body of the practice, metta and karuna are the warm, vital blood of it. They're the living expression of our right view and the embodiment of our right intention. Let's begin with metta. This Pali word is translated as loving kindness. It's crucial to understand what it means, because it's very different from what our culture calls love. It's not romantic love, which is conditional and often based on attachment, tanha. It's not transactional love, I love you if you make me happy. Metta is unconditional goodwill. It's a sincere, deep, and universal wish for the well-being and happiness of all beings, without exception. It's not a passing emotion. It's a mental skill that can be cultivated and strengthened, just like mindfulness. Why is metta so vital? Because it's the direct antidote to one of the three fires that burn us. The fire of aversion, dosa, anger, hatred, resentment, irritation, impatience. Mindfulness, sati, helps us see anger when it arises. Metta is what we use to dissolve anger at its root. How do we cultivate it? Through a specific meditation practice. Traditionally, it follows a careful progression, designed to open the heart in stages. 1. We begin with ourselves. This is, for many, the most difficult part. We're conditioned to criticize ourselves, to focus on our flaws. But as the saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. Trying to love others without self-love is like trying to water a garden without water. So, we sit in silence and offer ourselves healing phrases, such as, may I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live in peace. We repeat this, not as an empty affirmation, but as a sincere wish, feeling the intention behind the words. 2. We extend to a benefactor or dear friend. Someone for whom it's easy to feel affection. May you be happy. May you be safe. 3. We extend to a neutral person. Someone we see, but toward whom we have no strong feelings. The cashier at the supermarket, the neighbor. May you be happy. This begins to stretch the muscle of the heart. 4. We extend to a difficult person. This is advanced training. Bring to mind someone who has hurt us or irritates us. And with the power of practice, we try to extend the same wish. May you too be happy. May you find peace. Why? Not to excuse their actions, but to free our own heart. Resentment is a poison we drink hoping the other person will die. Metta is the antidote we take ourselves. 5. Finally, we extend to all beings. May all beings, everywhere, in all directions, be happy and free from suffering. This practice is transformative. It softens the corners of our judgment. It dissolves the isolation of the self, which we'll talk more about, and connects us to common humanity. We're talking about reprogramming our emotional operating system, moving out of aversion and toward connection. If you feel that the world and your own mind could use more of this loving kindness, please leave a like. It's an act of metta for this channel, helping to spread this message of healing. And if you're not yet subscribed, join our community of awakened heart minds. If metta is the wish for all beings to be happy, karuna, compassion, is its twin sister. Karuna is the heart's response when it encounters suffering. It's the trembling of the heart in the presence of pain, whether ours or others. But karuna is not the same as pity. Pity looks down. Poor you. Pity creates distance. Karuna is the willingness to enter into pain together with the other. The word compassion literally means to suffer with. However, Buddhist compassion is not drowning in another's pain, which would just be emotional overwhelm. True karuna is the union between the tenderness of the heart and the clarity of wisdom, prajna, and the stability of mindfulness, sati. It's what allows a doctor to treat a sick patient with care and focus without collapsing. It's what allows you to listen to a friend in crisis with total presence, without absorbing their drama. Karuna is what urges us to action. Metta can be a passive feeling of goodwill. Karuna sees a being suffering and feels the impulse to do something to alleviate that suffering. It's right action and right livelihood in motion. Mindfulness allows us to see the first noble truth, that suffering exists, dukkha. Compassion is the human and awakened response to this truth. Metta and karuna are two of the four divine abodes, brahmaviharas, qualities of the awakened mind. The other two are mudita, empathetic joy, the ability to feel joy for the happiness and success of others. Is the direct antidote to envy and jealousy. Upekkha, equanimity, balanced peace, love that is not attachment. It's the capacity to care deeply, but without being brought down by the outcome. It's the deep acceptance of impermanence, anicca and karma, cause and effect. When you practice mindfulness, you clean the mirror of your mind. When you practice metta and karuna, you teach the heart to shine through that clean mirror. Buddhism teaches us that, in our natural state, when the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion are extinguished, nirvana, what remains is not emptiness. What remains is this clear, luminous, compassion-filled peace.